I think we can safely say that this is the first proper international episode because it's like two people in London and one person on the other side of the world with Bailey. How has your day been so far, Bailey?
It's been good. It's over. It's almost 11 p.m. So
Jeez.
it was a good day. But yeah, the time zone is it's crazy. There's never a good time zone difference in Australia.
No, no, you guys are properly locked down there.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think there's a bit of, because of the time difference, a bit of a disconnect between the Bitcoin community over our side of the world versus your side of the world?
Don't know. I guess maybe for like breaking news, like there's been countless times that like I've woken up and checked my phone and it's like notifications of news and I'm like, oh crap, and I'm like 4 hours behind and people are tweeting stuff. I'm like, that's such a good tweet.
Right, right.
Stuff like that. But yeah, it is odd, especially like running Bitcoin businesses that are based in the US and ship out from the US. It's interesting. I pretty much like I will work for the next couple of hours after this to get some stuff done. So yeah, it's a bit odd. I think I need to move to America or maybe Europe or something.
Yeah, I mean, Australia's not too. Which side in Australia are you from? The east or west coast?
South. So
South.
right,
Okay.
right at the bottom, a beach city, Adelaide.
Oh, nice, nice. I've been there. No, haven't been there. No, but I've heard
It's
of it.
nice and quiet.
Nice, nice. And in classic rabbit hole fashion, what was the moment you discovered Bitcoin? What was your rabbit hole story? Maybe you'll start there and then go into the various topics, I'm sure.
Yeah, so my rabbit hole story would be it goes back to 2015, I would say. Even well, that was the first time I purchased Bitcoin, but maybe a year or two before that, I had already kind of like heard about it, didn't understand all what it was at the time. In 2015, I was 17, so yeah, I think I heard about it when I was 15 the first time. And I was in high school and obviously wasn't that interesting to me. In high school, I was much more interested in girls or hanging out at the skate park with my mates or something like that. But yeah, and then I think it was, yeah, 2 years later, hanging out with some mates and I think the topic came up of it. I don't know what had happened in 2015, but there was like some sort of breaking news around Bitcoin that had come on our like Facebook feed that we were talking about at the time, and
Could be the Twinkle was twins. The Winklevoss twins with their. They did file for an ETF back then, and I remember it being a big thing in Normie Land as well.
yeah, maybe. Honestly, I have no idea. I just remember, yeah, it was definitely like a breaking news thing, but they were pretty big then, so it makes sense. And then yeah, and then we were like a little bit more interested at the time, and then decided to like figure out how to buy this, which was like a challenge in itself. And I think we spent maybe like an hour watching a couple of videos and looking into it, and it became like a bit of a group obsession, which was really fun. And then I think we all put in, all made accounts on CoinJar, I think it was called. I think it's a UK based company actually. I have no idea if they're still around, but
They got acquired by the exchange Obi used to run, I think, and those guys. I think they shut down because yeah, Obi was fed up probably. So
yeah,
I do
yeah.
remember them being at certain events also in Central Europe. So yeah,
There you
good
go.
times.
Yeah, so we all made accounts on there, and I think I put in $50. I bought $50 of Bitcoin, and it was just like really cool. And then the fact that it was like a group activity, even after that, like for a few months after that, we all kind of like had this obsession for it. And then I continued buying it, diving a little bit more into just like crypto in general. And then in 2017, I sold all my Bitcoin to buy an outfit to go on a date with a girl. So, and didn't end up working out with her. I didn't even get a second date, so that sucked. But lost all my Bitcoin for that. But definitely learned my lesson. And then pretty much from 2017 to 2021, maybe, early 2021, I kind of went through my altcoin season, as a lot of people do. Was just, trading different altcoins, Ethereum, Cardano, stuff like that. Anything really that was like new or someone said was going to be like the next big thing. And initially I did like pretty well. Actually made like some decent returns. At the time I was working at McDonald's and I was like a university student. So I, uh, it was like cool making $1,000 or $2,000 profit at the time, which was really nice. And then, I'm pretty sure I ended up just like losing everything at one point and kind of took, 6 months off. And then, I think after that, in 2021, I heard obviously more news about Bitcoin and that drew me back into it and a little bit older and wiser and with some life experience, especially around money. Obviously moving out of my parents' home and actually learning what money is, it appealed to me a lot more. So then I kind of like jumped down the rabbit hole of just Bitcoin, and within a few months, I guess had my orange pill moment, where decided that I was, Bitcoin only, and from then on have been. And then in late 2022, I sold a investment property, and I was pretty heavily into Bitcoin at this point. And when I sold the property, decided that, if I do believe in Bitcoin and kind of like what it promises and what the fundamentals are, that I should go all in. So then 100% of the profits from that property I put into Bitcoin in late November last year, which was a good decision. Chucked it in cold storage and kind of forgot about it. And then, and in December, I moved from kind of investing into Bitcoin daily into some business stuff. And then that's kind of what birthed a couple of the Bitcoin projects that I've been working on since January.
I see that you're wearing some of your Bitcoin project
I
as we
am.
speak,
Shameless
right?
plug. I am some Mr.Satoshi gear. This is our Satoshi Social Club range.
Nice. And the hat says what? Bitcoin Social Club. Oh,
Satoshi
Satoshi
Social Club.
Social Club.
Yeah.
Nice. And what's that on your hoodie?
This is also Satoshi Social Club. Says Satoshi Social Club in Bitcoin We Trust, which I thought was a nice little addition to it. So all embroidered, which is really nice. But yeah, that was my first Bitcoin project that launched in January, and it's been really incredible, especially the kind of like acceptance as well in the Bitcoin community has been really, really awesome for it.
I see that you're both wearing some apparel from Bitcoin orientated
We were
apparel,
just chatting
except for
about it.
me, right? I've let the side down here today.
I love the Mutiny t-shirt. I saw that on Twitter a couple of days ago, and I was like,
Yeah,
"This
Yeah.
that's
is
awesome.
sick."
Yeah, Joel's been tweeting the hell out of that top.
Yeah,
It's
it might have
awesome.
been your tweet, to be honest. I clicked on the store, the Lightning store, and I was like, this guy has such sick designs. Yeah.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
also a fun dude to write to. But funny enough, there is actually, I don't know if you guys know this. This is inspired by Marlboro, of course, like the cigarette
Yeah,
brand.
that's right.
And there's a rad ass cool shirt with that design, also the one on the back. And I
Ah,
used to have the fucking shirt, but I can't remember where I put it. I was like, fuck, if I had the right shirt, I'd like the Mutiny shirt, but it's such a good photo. But
yeah.
I think Bitcoin Imperial is definitely on the up.
Yeah, no, definitely. Nice, well-made Bitcoin apparel. Something that we definitely needed. So it's really awesome. And there's a couple of us around that make like actually good quality ones and really nice designs like the one you're wearing. Like that's so sick. And obviously I'm very biased, but this stuff's awesome as well and super comfy. So like it's really awesome to see. And also the Bitcoin community loves it too. Especially the stuff that's doesn't scream Bitcoin as much. Like so, ones that have like HODL and a Bitcoin logo, people are less likely to kind of buy or like wear out in public. That's what we found. A lot of the stuff that we sell is like this low key, not obvious apparel, but also you're still supporting a Bitcoin business and repping Bitcoin.
And it's kind of like hidden in plain sight almost, right?
That's it. Like a Bitcoin is going to notice, and that's it. And that's probably the only person you want to notice that you're
Yeah.
wearing it if you're out in public.
And your service with Mr. Satoshi, with which we can get into now, is it's super fast because like I ordered. It must have been a couple months by now ago. I was like, oh, if I order it from, I don't know, the state side or maybe even the Asian side, it will probably take a few weeks. And like, boom, within 4 days it was here.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I have I can't remember the name of the collection is, but the Satoshi in like the different colors, and then it's sort of layered on top of each other.
Yeah, yep. That's
So
just our standard range, so it's not
nice.
any of our like other ranges, but it's I remember you posted a photo, the white t-shirt. It looks
Yeah,
super sick.
exactly.
Somewhere
The
on our
long
profile.
sleeves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the quality is nice. It gets sent real quickly. You mentioned you've sort of gotten in and out of Bitcoin. Why Apparel? Like, what was the number one reason? Was it really just like, hey, I like clothes, I like caps, and I want to do something else, or was there a
No.
previous connection for you?
No, it wasn't. I have no prior experience at all with apparel. I have prior experience with business. I've started and ran a couple of successful and not successful businesses in the past. And when I kind of like in November decided to go all in Bitcoin, I was working in finance at the time, so I was a mortgage broker, and I was like, I used to be self-employed, and I was like, man, I'd love to go back to self-employed. I think like once you do it and you get a taste for it, going back to a 9 to 5 is like impossible. So I was really looking for that out of what I could do, what could be the thing that could get me out of this like 9 to 5 rat race. And also, it was in November, I was looking for a Bitcoin t-shirt. And I spent an hour or so just browsing online on a couple of different stores, and I just couldn't find anything that I liked the designs. Like it was good quality design. Like I said before, like I didn't want a shirt that said HODL. I didn't want like a big Bitcoin logo. Wanted something low key, and also like the quality as well. I wanted it to be like good quality, want to last, and I just genuinely couldn't find a t-shirt. And then that kind of triggered it in my brain, and I sat with it for a month or so, and decided to like start working on it and fleshing out a bit of a plan and an idea, and that's kind of where Mr. Satoshi came from.
So my mic was playing up then. Where do you get your designs from? Is it all in your own head, or have you got some team of people that help you out with that?
Yeah, so at the start, probably for the first 3 months, it was just me doing designs and getting all that done. So I'd say probably 70 to 80% of the designs on the store are from me, but then the other 20% are just from like freelance designers. No one like full time, just people that are contracted to make a couple of designs. But we kind of go to the same people because they make really good designs and know what we want, and they're also Bitcoiners, which helps.
And in terms of like, if you look at your whole range now, is it really that it's always going to stick to apparel, or will you, because I do know you've written a book, like we actually recorded a bit in advance. It will go out today, or it is out at this point when listeners see or hear the show. Was it always in the back of your head to like, hey, I'll start with like clothes, accessoires, design stuff, and then maybe maybe some stickers design? I know you sell some, and then the book, or has it just been like free flowing and you said like, you know what, I'll just do whatever I want?
Yeah, something that I learned from a previous business that I had, which was also e-commerce, is having like a broad range of products can be, and a lot of the times is like super detrimental to the business. Key thing that I've found is like you want to find a niche, and then you want to find a niche within that niche. So for like me, it was like Bitcoin apparel is the niche, but then what is your niche in that? And for me, it was like premium, high quality, well made designs, and it's like that is your kind of key market, and we've really tapped into that market. I think it's been the reason that it's been successful in such a short period of time. But
Yeah.
when I first launched Mr. Satoshi in January, I guess I was like super excited about launching, and we had some other products like stickers and phone cases, and I think we did bags at one point, and like a couple sold and it was okay, but like when I just looked at the site, it was like confusing because you're this apparel store, but you're selling bags and it's just like it's cluttered. So I got rid of all that and it's now just solely apparel for Mr. Satoshi.
It's important, I think, and significant that you mentioned the word quality,
Mm.
and it kind of highlights the whole value for value type thing that is being constantly discussed in the Bitcoin ecosystem amongst Bitcoiners. And if you're going to fully part with your valuable Sats, it has to
Yeah.
be a good quality product, right? So you're incentivized in a way to create some quality goods. Because if sometimes I go to like conferences and stuff. Yeah, there are t-shirts for sale, and you know that they're cheap, sort
Yeah.
of mass manufactured t-shirts with some sort of print that's been ironed on and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And there is a marketplace for that because they're quite unique to those conferences. But at the same time, it's not really a place where people will put their sats on a day-to-day basis, or if they're going out and shopping for this sort of stuff online.
100%. Like, I guess it's a bit cliche, but I'd say we're definitely a like lifestyle brand as well, like being connected in the Bitcoin community. And a big thing in our community is like obviously the ethos of don't trust, verify. And I knew that going in. And it's like that with any business, but with the Bitcoin community, I knew that if you start a business and you've started on the wrong foot, you got bad quality, it's not what it should be, and people are wasting their sats on that. They're way more upset about that than like if they were spending money. So you need to respect that. You need to make sure you're delivering what you're promising. And it's been good because that was like the initial challenge at the start when I launched in January was actually getting the first couple of people to buy. That was the hardest thing. That took a while, but then once that happened, it was kind of like a snowball effect because people start posting on Twitter being like, "Hey, took a chance. It's actually pretty good." Posting that, and then once people see the evidence and see the proof and verify it, then they're more like eager to buy. And we've been doing that for 6 months, so now it's definitely not a problem. Like the evidence is there, and in 6 months we haven't had one single refund, which has been fantastic. Yeah, which has been great. We've had one exchange because of like the wrong size,
Mm.
but yeah, definitely not one refund for quality or anything like that, which is really awesome and something that like I'm super proud about.
Yeah, and Ian, I guess Bailey's hats and stuff would probably be better than the stuff we tried for our merch. So, like, who knows? We might see a Rabbit Hole Stories collection.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, watch this space. Maybe we can collaborate in some way in the future, Bailey. Um,
Absolutely.
but going back to you personally, and obviously being from Australia, what's the Bitcoin ecosystem and space and community like out in Australia?
Yeah, so this is something I've learned a little bit more recently, probably within the last like 6 to 12 months, because when I have like been involved in Bitcoin before, I haven't been that interested in like, um, going to, I was never interested in like going to big conferences or events. I was kind of like a very private investor. Like I didn't see it as the community that it is now. But there are a lot of Bitcoiners here in Adelaide, where I am. Not as many. It's definitely in like your bigger cities like Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, and stuff like that. But in Adelaide, it's definitely growing. Something that kind of blew me away is I don't know when it was, maybe January or February. I jumped on the Orange Pill app. Shout out to them, love them guys, awesome app. Message me on there, and Mr. Satoshi, we're a sponsor on there. Shameless plug. But I jumped on there because it was a super cool app, and I was so surprised at how many Bitcoiners were actually like nearby. It almost freaked me out because it was like 2 kilometers, this bloke's here, this guy's here. And I'm like, oh, what? And it's like 5 kilometers, this guy. And I'm like, oh, wow, there are actually like way more Bitcoiners in my local town than like I ever thought. So it's growing. It's definitely a lot smaller than like the US and Europe. But we had like one of our conferences in Sydney a few months ago, and that seemed to be a good success. I didn't get the chance to go, but from what I saw on like Twitter and stuff, it was actually like a pretty decent turnout.
Yeah, because I imagine that's what not a lot of people realize, especially over here in Europe. Like Australia is a huge country.
Massive.
It's not like you could go from one city to the other in your car and you're there in 2 hours.
No,
It's such a big thing to probably see everything.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely true. I think we're I don't know, probably very much similar size to like the US, but we've only got 26 million people living here. Like we're all just on the coast. The whole
Yeah.
center is desert, and then we all just live near the beaches. Uh, so yeah.
So the center could be a cool Bitcoin citadel in the future. Like there's enough space there.
There's not much going on there. It's just a lot of
Yeah.
dirt and snakes, to be honest. It might not be the best.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And like you were mentioning earlier as well, the a lot of the narratives in the Bitcoin space is very dominated by America and US. So you guys, with the time difference, you get like a wave of all the things that have been happening in that sphere, if you like. So it must be quite overwhelming at times just to try and catch up with all the stuff that's happening over in the US. Because I know sometimes I wake up with like the big news that's happened in America just a few hours prior. But I imagine for you guys, it must be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, it is. Like at the moment, so what is it? It's just past 11 o'clock here. And in the US, it's like 8, 9 a.m. So, everyone in Australia is about to sleep for the next 8 hours, and that's the US's whole day. So by the time I wake up, it's like 6, 7 p.m. US. So everything in the day's happened. Like all of the breaking news, interviews, like government decisions have happened while I'm sleeping. And it's true with everything, not just Bitcoin, but like politics and everything. Anytime something big happens in the US, yeah, it's makes the mornings more exciting. The morning coffee is like a lot more nicer in Australia. I think we probably
Right.
have the than anywhere else because like we get all the whole day's news right at our feet in the morning.
Going back to your rabbit hole story, you were mentioning that it was a group of you that kind of studied Bitcoin or came to this discovery all at the same time. How many of you in that group are still in Bitcoin?
Me. Just me, just me. Yeah. I don't think any of them continued on, unfortunately. I wish I could say that they did, but no, we were so young. We all kind of started our careers and we've all gone in like different directions, moved, university. So just like was never a major focus at that age. I always wish that, I was older and wiser in like 2008 or 2009, 2010, I'd like to convince myself that I would have jumped on early if I had known about it then. But just being younger, I think was a bit of a curse.
I mean, to be fair to you, I think 17 years old, discovering Bitcoin and doing some investigation into that is a good thing. And you've discovered it, when you were able to really sort of consume the kind of fundamentals of things. So, you
Yeah.
got into it young. And I know you did as well, Joel, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to add as well. I think if you're that young, the biggest benefit you have is time. So like you can go down different routes, you can see if it's sticking. And let's be honest, back then, like you didn't have many books, you didn't have great literature,
Yeah.
so you had to spend your time figuring it out of your own, essentially.
Yeah.
So I think I have the same thoughts at times, like, oh, maybe you should have stuck around a bit longer and, like do this better and these things better. But like, you really didn't have the resources. So the only thing you did was either get involved on like Bitcoin Talk Forum or, spend it or maybe go to a meetup. But that was like it. There weren't the big conferences and these things yet. So, yeah, it's a kind of a double-edged sword, I think, because
Yeah.
on the one end you want to do it, but then, yeah, it
It's like
just
when
didn't
you,
want to be.
it's just when you're 17 or 18, what Bitcoin does and what it offers at that age doesn't really affect you yet. It's like when you get to, I'm 25 and obviously I'm still young, but like you start to see now with like life experience and having to pay taxes or like understand governments, kind of dive deep into like the real world sheltered school and like home life, and you're exposed to like the real world, and that is what motivates, I think, a lot of young people or people coming into their like early to mid 20s to like go to Bitcoin, because they start seeing what the world is actually like and how Bitcoin solves a lot of those problems.
Yes, and I guess you kind of need these weird pushes. Like I remember, even today, sometimes if I have to write about, what was the latest one I've written? About pensions and how they're essentially Ponzi schemes, or healthcare systems, how they're also like you pay for others and you hope that the same thing happens if you get older. And I was kind of sitting there going like, shit, yeah, I mean, you kind of forget at times that like, we're probably never going to see any of the money you put in anyway. And so you have to almost go through these events to realize, yeah, maybe we'll need Bitcoin, not even to like have money when you're old, but to have an alternative, I guess.
Yeah.
Because, like, imagine if you already have to sit down and become a hedge fund manager next to your job, just to be able to retire. Like, these are the crazy things I think you then see. But obviously, if you're like 18, you don't give a shit. You want to buy your date outfit, right?
Exactly right. Like that's what your motivation is at that time, which is, yeah, it's just how the world works, isn't it? But it's really cool to see the progression, and like it's like a nice humbling experience to look back on like my journey with Bitcoin, and also just like in my life as well, and see how like the way that I have developed and grown personally, and how that the crossroad of that with Bitcoin and now how it's like intertwined is like a really cool thing to now look at and be in the midst of. It's really nice. We're in a very exciting time. I know everyone says it, but like we
Yeah, we
see,
are.
and I'm like, I'm so privileged. Like you said it before, Ian, it's actually a benefit being this young, and you're absolutely right. Like I feel so privileged to be alive at this time. Like imagine being alive in 50 to 100 years when Bitcoin's at like $3 million a coin. Do you know what I mean? Like I think we just don't understand where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm all this time I'm just trying to think of the irony that you've sold all your Bitcoin one day to buy clothes, and now that you're regaining all those sats
Yeah,
back by creating your own
that's
clothing brand,
hilarious.
right?
I've never made the connection of that to that is like a subconscious vendetta I have. I think I was just so angry that lost my Bitcoin for clothes that now I need to make all of my Bitcoin back by selling clothes. That's hilarious. Yeah, definitely.
Mate, I wanted to ask. Obviously, you revisited after you sold your Bitcoin. You came back into the ecosystem after a little bit of dabbling with the other cryptos and stuff like that. What was it then that made you decide Bitcoin only? What part of the Bitcoin fundamentals was it that really kind of hooked you into coming to Bitcoin only?
Yeah, so when I was in my altcoin season, there was a lot of different projects. I was pretty much investing in anything that had a dog on it or like an animal. But then there was like my top ones, which was Ethereum, Cardano, and Zilliqa at the time. And the thing that like at the start it was great, and I made like great money off of them at the time because it was quite early, but lost a lot of money too. But what it was at the end of the day that drew me to Bitcoin only was a lot of these projects, or all of these projects, are just centralized. Like they're super centralized. It's insane how it's painted not as that, and it just so obviously is. And then also these like false promises and false predictions of what's going to happen. Like I remember sitting on coins for like a year or two, and they're like, oh, once this gets approved, this is going to happen. Like it's the XRP type stuff. Do you know what I mean? And it just, and again, like what we were saying before about like life problems, it didn't solve a lot of my life problems or like the things that I had experienced in life or that I was seeing in the world. Like Zilliqa wasn't fixing any of like the things in politics or government or whatever it is. So then they just naturally became less appealing to me as I'm kind of like matured, I think. And then as I got exposed to Bitcoin at that time and started looking into that a bit more, and I jumped on like the online communities and started listening to some other people, I was like, wow, this literally ticks all the boxes. There's no CEO, there's no board of executives, there's no pre-mining. Do you know what I mean? Like it's genuinely an honest decentralized system, which was, I think, the turning point for me.
Yeah, I think that's a familiar journey that a lot of Bitcoiners go through. It's something that you hear again and again. It's this kind of slow realization. The more you stay into the space, and you start to realize how the others don't stand up against Bitcoin in any way. And it's easy to get trapped into the narratives of the shit coins or the altcoins or the crypto, if you want to call it that, because they do have these marketing departments, and they do
Yeah,
know how to use the correct sort of language that will convince people, by sort of clever marketing and stuff like that. So it's an easy trap to fall into for a lot of people, for sure.
And it's not only the projects themselves, but what many people underestimate is the amount of influence investors have over these things. Like, have you
yeah,
guys seen the clip of that one girl? She sits next to the Stacks scammer at like one of the crypto conferences a few weeks ago, where she explains how venture capital crypto people work, and she essentially commits, because she is one of them, that they just pump and dump for 12 to 18 months and then they just continue going with the next hype train.
it's insane.
And as a Bitcoiner, you sit there like, first of all, 12 to 18 months, that's like nothing, Like, who gives a
Yeah,
shit? Maybe you were lucky and get like 12 months where you're able to stack cheaply, but like, who gives a crap? That's just a year gone. There's
yeah,
so much more happening in the future. And like, she straight up admits that they essentially pump on, then dump on retail investors, and that the only thing that they essentially need to do is satisfy their LPs, their liquidity
of
partners,
course.
which I get, because like those are the guys giving in money. But as a Bitcoin, if you see this and you go like, holy shit, like if you see, like, you can't unsee it, right? You're in there, you see and cut through the bullshit. But yeah, good on you that you found your way out. Was it only the decentralized thing, or was there also any other substance? Bitcoin is a bit slower than the others. Sometimes people say you have more time to adapt and do things, or was there just, what, they don't have a board of commissioners, a board of executives, that's good enough for me? Was there any more to this, or was it really just, hey, decentralized enough and I want to stick with this?
Yeah, the main thing was that it just like ticked all the boxes that I was looking for personally, or like that I was seeing in the world. Like it was a solution to actual real world problems. It wasn't like a gaming token or a meme coin. Like, they're fun to, like you said, pump and dump and grab and like see if you can make a quick buck in a month. But I guess once you get older, it's like it doesn't solve any problems that relate to you, and Bitcoin did. I think another thing as well, is that, like, I've been in a couple of when I was going through my altcoin season, I think I jumped in a couple of different communities and Telegram groups, and you jump in these chats and kind of like see if you can fit into that community, or if this is like the community for you. It never happened. Always had horrible experiences, and it was just like terrible. And then jumping on like Twitter, the Bitcoin community is like insanely incredible. I love it. So being part of that community is really cool, and it's super important. Just like from like a human psychology perspective, like, community is core. It's one of the basic human needs is like a good community around you, and it's awesome that the Bitcoin community has that, and it's thriving, and it's really positive, and it's fun. And when there is beef and arguments, it's kind of fun to watch from the sidelines. Like, there's one I'm watching at the moment on Twitter. It's hilarious.
So, sometimes it
Yeah.
feels like the little kids in school, who like to slap and bitch
Yeah,
fight,
yeah.
but then at the end of the day they hug. So
Yeah, yeah.
it
It's so
kind
funny
of
because
feels
you
like it.
agree on, like, your fundamentals are exactly the same. It's like these stupid little things that just trigger it. And yeah, you kind of fight, and then at the end of the day, you're like, yeah, but we still literally stack the exact same thing every day.
Right, exactly. I mean, you see it on Bitcoin Twitter and Nostr, the petty arguments that are ongoing all the time. It is entertaining most of the time, frustrating some of the time. And we've said it before, Joel, on this podcast more than once, about no matter what your politics are, we all agree on Bitcoin, and
Yeah.
we seem to kind of show up when we must, if there's some FUD coming from the New York Times, for example, no matter what your politics are, we all kind of assemble under the Bitcoin banner together, which is quite an interesting, unique experience, to be honest. I think I've never experienced this in my life, and I've got double the life experience than you guys. So it's a weird and interesting place.
It's
Almost, almost a double experience, Ian. Like you can't,
it's
you don't
yeah,
need to stay yourself long.
you don't look a day over 25, Ian.
No,
Uh,
it's my. I think it's my camera. I've got some sort of filter
yeah,
on, I'm sure.
that's the beauty filter. I should have signed up for that. Yeah, it's like it's the power of shared experience. It's like the power of like a collective belief. It's really cool. And like you said it before, Ian, that's a really great point about no matter like your political views or whatever your personal views on stuff, we have this core fundamental belief that is really solid, and we can always come back to that no matter what else we believe.
Talk to me about a life of a mortgage broker. What lessons did you learn being a mortgage broker, and how did that kind of influence your mindset around money?
Yeah, it was busy. I worked for, so I started off at a small firm here locally, and then ended up getting a job at the biggest mortgage broking company in Australia. So they're based in Sydney, but I was working remotely, and it was insanely busy. I was working crazy hours, but I guess the interesting thing is being exposed to finance and stuff. The mortgage rates here, you need to keep an eye on all the time, like your variable rates. Obviously, you're checking banks and news, and you've got alerts on your phone to see if like Westpac here has announced a rate increase. We also have the RBA here, the Reserve Bank of Australia. So they're the ones who decide if the interest rate goes up. So they meet once a month, every Tuesday, to decide whether it goes up or down. And obviously, last year, pretty much all of last year, it was going up every single month, and it was a massive thing. And you've got these clients who 2 years ago could afford $1 million property, and now the interest rates are three times what they were, and they can't afford like a $500,000 property. It's like it's insane. And then on the other side of that, is it was really interesting to see kind of like people's financial literacy as well. Obviously, you get exposed to like people's personal financial situations and what people are kind of like spending their money on and stuff. And it was just interesting to see that behavior every single day. It was really cool seeing like the people who owned like 10 properties, had investments, was really like smart financially, bought stocks and stuff like that. And these are clients that like I got to speak to every day. So it was really fun, kind of like being a sponge and absorbing like a bunch of just like financial knowledge in general. And yeah, it's really good. Also, your clients, the ones who are happy with you, always send you gifts. So I would always get like a bottle of wine or a six-pack of beer or something mailed to my house like every 3 days, which was really fun.
Do you find, or did you find, when you were doing it, people kind of were tending to maybe overstretch themselves on credit a little bit just to get a bit more of a house than they should be able to afford, or is that not the case?
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, yeah. There are some nightmare ones you see. Like you see people in hundreds of thousands of dollars of like credit card debt or like just personal loans. And I've seen some shockers. Like obviously you get to see these people's credit reports and, you know, get to see how good they are at paying back the debt that they're kind of borrowing. And it is pretty crazy to see. And it's super challenging because obviously it's hard, personally, like ethically, because there are laws and rules around obviously, if someone can get a loan, and there are strict criterias with like the big four banks here. But when you get a client who's in $80,000 credit card debt, her credit report is shit, she's missed months of payments, like your goal is still to try to find a solution. So like, if she's on an 8% rate, like you're trying to find B-tier lender, like these random private lenders who will still borrow to her, and it's like slightly better than where she's at, but it's just it's interesting. It's a bit of a ethical pull, like if these people should be, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
I'm always wondering, like, we read Bitcoin fixes this, and obviously at one point you'll get into these things like, essentially already have it now, like back your mortgage with Bitcoin and deposit it as a security, as a security essentially for your loan and these things. And I kind of go like, okay, even if we're on a Bitcoin standard, let's say tomorrow, are we really going to fix that overspending? Because I think it took all of us, years, will probably take decades to fully grasp what the fundamental difference is to today's system. And if you kind of look at these things, you go like, even if people are able to get a mortgage with Bitcoin as a backing tool, are they really going to, live life by their best capabilities? Or are we always going to see, for at least I'd say 25, maybe 30 years, that overspending? Because, it's been so easy to do this, right? Like, we were, even, like, I grew up in Switzerland. I was used to negative interest rates, so you had to pay the bank to get your money in, which is crazy. And now you get into this time back again where suddenly normies on paper earn an interest on their investments again. So I think, I'm always wondering if that's something the Bitcoin ecosystem will fix.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have like mixed opinions on lending with Bitcoin. There are a couple of like Bitcoin platforms that are pretty legit, like I can't, Lendon, I think is one. I haven't looked into them, but that one I know particular, and they seem like they are legit, and they seem like they're trying to do a good thing. But you're right, it's kind of like that pull personally of like, is this the right thing to do? Does it work? Are we too early for something like this? I think obviously coming from a mortgage broking background, like it really comes down to the criteria for people getting approved. I get so nervous when I see DeFi stuff because there's nothing. It's terrifying. But there needs to be kind of that framework of eligibility and stuff like that for people's personal situations. Like when I bought my first property, this was like when COVID first started, so interest rates here went down crazy, and I locked in for 1 year at 1.79%, which was insane here. That's like the lowest I've seen it, and that was awesome. And my payments were like nothing, and then my fixed rate came off a year later, and I instantly went to 4%. So it's like I had already budgeted, I had my budget, my weekly budget. I know what I'm spending money on, and then it's like as soon as you come off that, the day you come off that, the next month you're paying almost 4 times more, and you just have to readjust so much more of your life to accommodate for that. And for I was lucky that it was annoying and inconvenient, but I could still do it. But I've witnessed it as a mortgage broker. There's so many people that have done that, come off it, and they literally are unable to pay it, and they haven't paid their mortgage for 3 months, and it's super scary because, like, that's your family home. It's a terrifying thing.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, like, even if you back everything with Bitcoin, you get to that point, and then you go like, shit, and now I'm gonna lose next to my home. I'm gonna lose the Bitcoin as well because, like, fuck, I over gambled essentially, and I think that gambling thing will always be there. I'm kind of on the same front. I go like, the people want to do DeFi, nice, like, do a side chain, whatever you want to do. But like, I don't think there should be stuff on the main layer, or anywhere near to the main layer.
Yeah, there will come a time where it will like be a trending topic, and we'll find a solution for it or something like that. I think at the moment it's definitely not on the horizon. I don't see a lot happening in that space, which is fine. Eventually, it will just naturally progress to that. Like as we naturally kind of come onto a Bitcoin standard, is that will just come up, and we'll find a solution at the time. Like we needed faster payments, and we figured out the Lightning Network. The same thing will happen.
Yeah, and I guess no one will rush it because even with Lightning, it took us a couple of years to get it to a stage where you can halfway use it. But I want to get back to, before we maybe get to your book, the other Bitcoin businesses you also have up and running.
Yep.
what was the idea behind them? Was it really just, hey, I like writing, I do BitByte News, or what was the motivation behind all of those things?
Yeah, so besides Mr. Satoshi, I have BitByte News, like you said, which is daily bite-sized articles, which is really fun. And then I have a project. It's not a business; it's just like a free website called the Bitcoin Legacy Project.org. And that was just something that I wanted to challenge myself on. It's a whole complete timeline of Bitcoin's history, really interactive and fun. So that's like done, and I just update it when something major happens. But yeah, going back to BitByte, I wanted to. Obviously, I just started Mr. Satoshi, and I was growing the brand, but also at the same time, I was growing my personal brand on Twitter. Um, and with that comes definitely a sense of responsibility in what you say. I remember early when I jumped on Twitter, like December, before I had even launched Mr. Satoshi, I made a post about Bitcoin or something, and I just wasn't very knowledgeable about a certain thing. I think I spoke well about Binance, and then it was yeah, obviously like the comments were like, but what about this? What about that? And I was like, 100% you're right. And then at that point, it was kind of like humbling because I realized it was an ego killer because I realized I didn't know as much as I thought I know, and I wasn't as good as I thought I was. When I started, when my personal Twitter account started growing, I realized I needed to educate myself and make sure that if I'm going to, be some sort of voice in this community and have some sort of following. And there are people who follow me who, really do listen to kind of like the things I tweet and are really supportive and need to just make sure what you're saying is correct and is in tune with like Bitcoin's vision. So with BitByte, I wanted to challenge myself that every morning I would wake up and write an article about some sort of topic on Bitcoin, which, if I do this on a long enough time frame, I'm going to become that expert in the field or whatever else and be confident in what I'm saying, which it really has done. Like I launched in February, I think. And yeah, it's been really freaking awesome posting, every day about a different topic, even stuff that I didn't know about before, forcing myself to like do the research, get educated about it, and then literally write about what I just learned that morning, and teach other people has been awesome. And the reaction from the community has been super cool as well. People have been loving it. Like a lot of the things that I'm learning, other people are learning for the first time, which is really cool because it's like this collective thing happening. And yeah, it's grown a lot, and obviously juggling that with Mr. Satoshi and the book as well. Was definitely busy, but I made a commitment, so we're sticking to it. And then at the moment, we're getting some regular writers jump on as well. So Joel, you obviously wrote a couple in June for us, which was awesome. It was awesome to have you and a couple of other guys as well. But now we have a team of two more writers who are cool full-time writers, and just put up an ad on Bitcoiner jobs, and we've had, I think at the moment it's like more than 35 applications. I haven't even been able to read them all. It's been up for like 3 days, so it's been insane. My inbox is like crazy. So and there are some really awesome Bitcoiners that have applied, people I didn't even wasn't even following on like Twitter and stuff. So it's really cool. So we'll be looking to add like 5 to 7 more writers, just to kind of like offload that for me, so I can my goal will be to do probably 3 a week, 4 a week, and obviously focus on as well like Mr. Satoshi and building that.
So was your book an evolution out of writing on BitByte News, or how did that come about? And maybe give a short introduction. What's the book, where's it available, and all of that spiel?
Yeah, so there's a book, my book that's coming out in on July 31st. So by the time this goes up, like you said, it will be available. So it'll be on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble. Um, Go grab it. It's really fun, really cool. But at the moment, it's available for pre-order. So the website will still be up. So it's orange pilled without the E, so PILLD book.com. And what it is it's a collection of 250 orange pilled stories from 250 Bitcoiners around the world. So 72 different countries, 250 different Bitcoiners. And what happened, the story with that is as I in January was being a bit more active in the community on Twitter and stuff, and I was communicating with like people on Orange Pill app and stuff. Ironically, it was so awesome, like hearing people's stories of how they became a Bitcoin maxi or just like became Bitcoin only. And there were some that were just like super touching and super awesome. And I just had this realization that these stories have never been like publicly shared. There's never been a collection, a single document of these stories, and I think it's important. And it's also important because it's what is orange pills other people. Like your personal testimony is the most powerful asset you have, especially when talking to altcoiners and shitcoiners. It's like, you know, and something kind of that influenced this was like my discussions with Brian DeMint, author of Bitcoin Evangelism, another incredible book. We were discussing like people who are in altcoins and stuff, and he was saying like the whole ethos of Bitcoin evangelism is like you don't bash these people, you don't yell at them, you're not like hating on them. You want to come at them with like a sense of love and like acceptance, and obviously, you know, a lot of us have been in our our altcoin season. So it's like you come there with empathy and being like, I was literally there 4 years ago, and evangelize to them. And the most powerful way to do that is with like your own personal story. Humans connect through emotion. Like that's we have mirror neurons. That's how we connect through emotion. When someone cries, you feel upset. When someone laughs, you laugh. When someone yawns, you yawn. And it's the same thing. It's like when someone shares their orange pill story and why they are so passionate about Bitcoin, it resonates with you and attracts you to that, to go search and find your own. So that's what birthed it. And I really I knew that there were amazing stories out there because I had heard them. And I just was like, this has to be documented. Like, there has to be a book for this. So I posted on Twitter a link to a site that had a questionnaire. And I said, if you go and upload your, or write your orange pill story, I'll give you 1,000 sats. Kept it up for a few months. And I think it was 530 something orange pilled stories came in within 2 months, 3 months, I think. And it was just like the most incredible thing. I spent, you know, a couple of weeks after I kind of closed submissions reading all of them, and it was insane. The hardest thing was choosing 250 of them. Like easily there could be another book. If you know, if this one does well, there's easily a second one. But yeah, and it's just like a collection of 250 orange pill stories celebrating that, like celebrating and also reflecting on these different things. And they vary so much. Like you've got your really heartfelt stories of how someone got involved in Bitcoin. And then you've got your funny ones like people buying drugs online on Silk Road. There's plenty of those on there. And then there's just like altcoin ones and other stuff. It's just cool. It's a really cool collection, and it gives a human aspect to Bitcoin. Like so often we focus on the market trends and the price and regulation and whatever else, which is fine and it's important, but it's like the human experience is a key part of Bitcoin that has definitely been missed.
it sounds like we're both on the same mission here, right? With Rabbit Hole Stories,
Yeah.
Joel and I sat down when we knew we wanted to do something within the ecosystem, and this is what we came down to, exactly what you say. I think there is a lot of value in making it personal, bringing the human into the space, and I think that's got a power to it that will provide a road for people to sort of connect to, and get into the Bitcoin in that way. And also your other project of working on your own personal brand, that's something that also resonated with me, because obviously my persona on Twitter is questioning Bitcoin. When I first discovered Bitcoin, I had my old personal Twitter account that I had on there for years that I barely used, and I started to do some Bitcoin-y type stuff on there, and it was quite evident that I was ignorant to quite a lot of the fundamentals of Bitcoin at the time, and I had to really sort of go away and reset that all really and create this new questioning Bitcoin thing, because I thought it was quite important to learn from the community by asking the questions of things that I didn't understand and getting the feedback and getting involved in the debates and some of the discourse that was going on the back of my questions. I was also asking questions on things that I felt I knew the answer to and had strong beliefs about, and I wanted to sort of get other people's perspectives, because I think coming into Bitcoin, you need to remain as open-minded as possible to sort of consume other people's mindset and perspectives in the Bitcoin space to get a full picture of what's going on. So that definitely resonated with me as well. But also, before we finish this episode, because I'm conscious of the fact we're running up to an hour, which is the usual running time for our podcast, Joel and I have started to do, you must have heard the term all roads lead back to Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
So we came up with an idea. We did recently put an episode out called All Roads Lead Back to Bitcoin, where we just came up with some random words and phrases to each other online, and just sort of tried to relate that back to Bitcoin somehow. So it's become a bit of a challenge we're going to give each of our guests at the end of the interview. And I'm going to give you a word. Joel and I just text each other while we're talking, and we came up with a word that we thought would be quite a good one to give you, and you've got to try and relate that back to Bitcoin somehow. Are you ready for this challenge?
I'm cutting this out if I do terribly.
Hey, it's not as easy as it as we like to think it is, but we'll give you some thinking time if you need it. And mate, that word is all roads lead back to Bitcoin. So how does underpants, we thought that was appropriate because of your apparel business, how does underpants relate back to Bitcoin?
All right, I can do this.
You can.
Yeah, underpants. All right. All right. I just like thinking in my head, these are hilarious. Underpants. You wear them to cover your ass, which is used for something that shares a name with shitcoins. Shitcoins are a type of altcoin. Altcoins are the opposite. No, altcoins are cryptocurrency, which is the direct opposite of Bitcoin. Boom.
There you go. He made the quick link. See, it's not too complicated.
Easy peasy.
That was very fun. That is the funnest game. I love that. That's hilarious. That's awesome. We used to do a similar thing at school on our laptops on Wikipedia. You jump on a random page of I don't know, the 54th president, and it's like, all right, now go to rose petals, and you just have to click the hyperlinks until you get there.
Yeah.
Like that. That's hilarious.
That was good effort. That was really good. In fact, we did underpants on our episode, didn't we? I can't remember what our answers were now, Joel.
I think I had underwear, and I went. I don't know. You need to protect your junk, just like you need to protect your Bitcoin in a hardware wallet, something along these lines. So you get quite creative with the things, but
it is fun.
Yeah, I also then had the quick link to shitcoins, and Ian obviously mentioned there can't be any leakage back down there, so
that's hilarious.
You need the underwear. Or the
just straight to the childish answers.
Of course, you have to.
That's what
Bailey,
it's all about.
It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with
Thank
you.
you guys so much.
Before we hang up though, where can people find you on the socials?
Yep. So personally, Twitter's the best way to go. So it's Bailey Jakob with a K, Jakob, and then just number one. Mr. Satoshi, so mrsatoshi.com. On Twitter, we're Mr. Satoshi Store. BitBite, we're bitbite.news. On Twitter, we're bitbite.news. And then my book, orangepilledbook.com without the E in pilled. And then the Bitcoin Legacy Project.org. Check that out. It's really fun.
Nice. Nice.
Perfect, mate. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for sitting up late at night talking to us here at Rabbit Hole Stories. It's been a pleasure. You're now a friend of the show, just like all of our other guests, so you're more welcome to come back any time to discuss any future projects you might have in the future. So thank you.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.